Imagine standing in an arena filled with tens of thousands of roaring spectators. In the center, a small group of terrified men and women huddle together, clutching each other as iron gates begin to rise. From the shadows, a lion steps forward, then another, and another. The crowd erupts, not in horror, but in celebration. This was Rome, and this was how the empire punished those who dared to follow a forbidden faith: the Christians. Today, we'll explore the truth behind one of history's darkest spectacles. Why did the Romans feed Christians to lions? What did it mean for those who watched, and for those who died? And how did this horror become the seed of one of the world's greatest religions? This is Thrown to the Lions. The Roman Empire was built on power, discipline, and the unshakable belief in control. But it was also built on spectacle, the need to entertain the masses with blood. From gladiator duels to public executions, violence wasn't just punishment, it was theater. The Colosseum wasn't merely an arena, it was the beating heart of Rome's identity, a place where emperors showed their might and citizens tasted the thrill of dominance. But the cruelty wasn't random, it was organized, ritualized, and deeply symbolic. Romans believed that death in the arena reaffirmed their civilization's superiority, that the lives of criminals and enemies were sacrifices to the gods of order. So when a strange new religion appeared in the 1st century AD, preaching peace, humility, and loyalty to a single god, Rome saw not just heresy, but treason. At first, Christians were invisible, small groups meeting secretly in homes, praying in catacombs, refusing to worship the emperor. Their faith was new, mysterious, and deeply misunderstood. To the Romans, religion was about public loyalty. You honored the emperor as a god, you sacrificed to Jupiter, and in return, Rome prospered. So when Christians refused to perform those rituals, they weren't seen as religious rebels, they were seen as enemies of the state. Rumors spread, Christians are cannibals, they eat flesh and drink blood in their ceremonies. They worship a criminal who died on a cross, they meet in the dark, plotting to destroy Rome. And when disaster struck, earthquakes, famines, or fires, the blame was often placed on these godless followers of Christ. It was the year 64 AD. A massive fire swept through Rome, burning for 6 days and 7 nights. 2/3 of the city was destroyed. Whispers began. Nero started it. Some said the emperor wanted to clear land to build his grand palace, the Domus Aurea. To silence the rumors, Emperor Nero needed a scapegoat, and he found one in the Christians. Tacitus, the Roman historian, tells us that Nero ordered Christians to be arrested, not for the fire itself, but for hatred of mankind. They were tortured, crucified, and burned alive. Some were wrapped in animal skins and torn apart by dogs. Others were coated in pitch and set aflame to light Nero's gardens at night. This was the first great persecution, and it would set the tone for centuries. By the 2nd century, executions had become public entertainment. The games, known as Munera, included gladiator fights, mock naval battles, and the most infamous of all, damnatio ad bestias, condemnation to beasts. Prisoners, criminals, and rebels were thrown into the arena to be torn apart by wild animals. But Christians were treated differently. They weren't executed for theft or murder. They were killed for belief. Their refusal to renounce their faith made them defiant in the eyes of Rome. And nothing thrilled the crowd more than seeing defiance punished. Lions symbolized power, dominance, and the wrath of Rome itself. To unleash them on Christians was to prove that the empire ruled over life, death, and faith. The lions were starved before the games, sometimes for days. When the Christians were let out, they were often tied to stakes or left unarmed. Priests of the old gods would bless the animals, calling it divine justice. Then the gates would open, and the roar of the beasts would echo across the arena. It's easy to imagine this as senseless cruelty, but to the Christians, it was something more. They saw themselves as martyrs, witnesses to their faith, chosen to die for their God. Accounts from early Christian texts describe how some prayed as they faced death. Some sang hymns as the beasts approached. Others forgave their killers. Their calmness, their refusal to scream or renounce Christ, shocked the crowds. Even Roman officials began to question what they were seeing. How could these people face death so peacefully? What kind of belief gave them that strength? Tertullian, a Christian writer from Carthage, later wrote a sentence that echoed through history. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. In other words, every time Rome killed a Christian, it created 10 more believers. The games themselves. The Colosseum, completed around 80 AD under Emperor Titus, could hold nearly 50,000 spectators. It was equipped with underground chambers, cages, and mechanical lifts to release animals dramatically onto the arena floor. In these games, exotic beasts, lions, leopards, bears, even elephants, were imported from across the empire. They were symbols of Rome's reach, but also instruments of terror. For the condemned, the experience was slow and psychological. They were marched through the streets first, paraded before the crowds as criminals. At the arena, they were dressed in mock costumes, sometimes as mythological villains or victims. A man might be tied up and presented as Orpheus, only to be mauled by bears moments later. A woman might be cast as Danae or Andromeda, chained, helpless, devoured by lions. This wasn't just execution. It was theater of humiliation, and Christians were its most symbolic victims, rebels against the emperor, mocked as fools who believed in an invisible God. Many names have survived, stories whispered through centuries. Saint Ignatius of Antioch, condemned to the beasts around 107 AD. He wrote letters on his way to Rome, saying, "Let me be food for the wild beasts. They are my way to God." Saint Perpetua and Felicitas, 2 young women executed in Carthage in 203 AD. Perpetua, a noblewoman, refused to renounce her faith even as her father begged her. In the arena, she helped guide the sword to her own neck when the executioner trembled. Saint Polycarp of Smyrna, burned alive in 155 AD after refusing to curse Christ. His last words were said to be, "86 years have I served him, and he has done me no wrong. How can I blaspheme my king who saved me?" These stories spread across the empire, inspiring others to stand firm. And slowly, what Rome meant as a warning became a badge of honor. By the 3rd century, the empire was changing. Plagues, wars, and corruption weakened Rome. People lost faith in the old gods, the temples were crumbling, and the emperor's divinity was being questioned. Christianity, once a persecuted cult, was growing, even among soldiers and officials. Then came Emperor Constantine. In 312 AD, before the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Constantine reportedly saw a vision, a cross in the sky, with the words, "In this sign, you will conquer." He won the battle, and soon after, issued the Edict of Milan in 313 AD, granting Christians freedom to worship. The very empire that once fed them to lions now bowed before their God. The Colosseum still stands today, scarred but proud, a relic of both human brilliance and human cruelty. Tourists walk its corridors, unaware that beneath their feet, thousands once died in agony and faith. Historians estimate that over 500,000 people and 1 million animals died in Roman arenas. Not all were Christians, but their suffering became the symbol of Rome's darkest legacy. The blood in the sand became a reminder that faith, once persecuted, can outlast empires. So, why did the Romans feed Christians to lions? The truth is layered. It was political, to control the masses and display imperial power. It was religious, to punish defiance and please the gods. It was psychological, to remind citizens what happened to those who stood apart. But beneath it all, it was fear. Rome feared what it could not control, a faith that promised eternal life, that rejected the emperor's divinity, that united slaves, women, and the poor. It was an idea stronger than any army. And the lions were the empire's desperate attempt to silence that idea. In the end, the lions grew silent, the crowds faded, the emperors turned to dust. But the faith of those who died endured. The cross, once a symbol of death, became a symbol of victory. And the Colosseum, once a stage for horror, became a monument of remembrance. Every time the sun sets over its ancient stones, you can almost hear the echo, not of lions, but of prayers. Whispers of men and women who faced death not with swords, but with belief. Because in the end, Rome tried to destroy Christianity. Instead, it made it eternal. Rome fed Christians to lions to silence them, but in doing so, it gave birth to the legend of faith that reshaped the world. If belief could survive the jaws of lions, what could it survive today?
Hey guys, what kind of videos do you want to see next? Drop your ideas in the comments below. I'll pick the best ones and make them. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new. Let's make something awesome together.